you could argue that they're cut. Like, it's still something to be focused on because the prices are high.
Day 3, day 27:30.
Spectacular job. Percent inflation down to where we were. That target number of 2% seemed a bit erroneous. In my opinion, he should have gotten down to when we got to 2.5. Spike the football, claim victory.
May kwan. Gusto ko lang yung game. Napagtulog.
All right, both and live pictures where
Wala pa ni
protesters
Sultan,
running
wala pa.
now after Jim's show was suddenly pulled by ABC. We'll be right back.
Sa kabasa niyo ba? Wala. Messenger?
Sounds of the bird and the winds. It's like meditation. I believe, in my opinion, there is no other job or profession like this.
Dida helps run Mata venue.
We are family-owned vineyard and winery. And these vineyards were planted by my father in 2007.
She says that she is inspired by her surroundings.
I believe that the nature is a very good teacher. So I love coming to vineyards in the early lights. I'm walking among wines. Sometimes even I'm talking to them.
The world is
Open na ni.
at your fingertips. CNN Club Hotel, connected to your world.
Parang yung biglang mo.
The European marketplace that's constantly
Ano ba, egg po?
evolving.
Lagyan mo ng itlog.
From the energy sector, wow,
Very cool. It really feels like plastic.
technology,
This is the next generation of computing.
wow, and the latest in luxury.
What we're doing is world class.
Are you more drawn to the classics? I'm a classic girl. I'm Anna Stewart, and I'm Claire Sebastian. Join us for Marketplace Europe.
This weekend on CNN.
Magkano na doon?
This is CNN.
Ayan. Down and down.
Breaking news: protests growing right now in support of Jimmy Kimmel, including one right outside
Hmm,
his
si
studio
Jimmy
in
Kimmel.
Los Angeles. That is
Yan ang
actually where
gi-out.
he would normally be taping his show as I speak. The protests are coming a day, and we're watching this live here in Los Angeles. ABC suddenly pulled Kimmel's show because of his comments
Ito
about
mag-viewing.
Charlie Kirk's shooter.
Sige, mata-mata.
Protesters carrying signs, including one that says ABC bend the knee. It comes as CNN learns that ABC hopes to bring Kimmel back, but has no timetable on how or when. Thanks for
Ako,
joining
ibutang
us.
lang diri pa?
ABC starts now.
O, ikaw lang mo kuhan. Ikaw lang? Ano? Lahi na siya na kuhan.
16 reporting on why ABC pulled the plug on Jimmy Kimmel. The president's top regulator says this
Very
is
good.
not a last shoe to drop. Also, is that regulator, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr, how he got the job, and how he's turning the agency into an arm of the administration. Plus, democracy activist and former chess world champion Garry Kasparov with a sobering warning what he saw happen in Russia when Vladimir Putin began targeting dissenting voices in the media. Good evening, thanks for joining us. We are learning for the first time tonight from Inside ABC what drove the decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air. It caps a day in which it became amply clear that the Trump administration's campaign against broadcast shows and media outlets is not over. Not by a long shot.
Nerves.
Getting ABC to suspend Kimmel's show yesterday was not the end of it. Both the president and his handpicked FCC chairman made that claim.
What are you talking about when you say not the last shoe to drop? Look, we're going to continue to hold these broadcasters accountable to the public interest. And if broadcasters don't like that, simple solution, they can turn their license in the FCC. There's other things that we can do with it that would serve the national interest. And frankly, other people would want to use this spectrum. But we're going to continue to make clear we're holding broadcasters
Dala pa,
accountable
gawin na
to
ba?
public interest.
Brendan Carr on Fox late today talking
Okay.
about this in terms of the
Okay.
public interest and the national interest. However, a short time earlier,
Jesus, dahil na
of course, one way back in the
makapanilak
UK, the
sa
president
una.
also weighed in and said nothing
Dahil
about
hindi
either of
maging
those
tulog.
things. Nor anything about what precipitated Jimmy Kimmel's suspension. Kimmel's remarks Monday night characterizing the reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination by what he called the MAGA gang. Here's what the president said instead about Kimmel. and what seems to be his largely personal interest in all of this.
He had no talent. It's a whack job, but he had no talent. And more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent, they get ratings. But he had no.
Dala ni nila tatay.
His ratings were worse than Colbert, I think. They got rid of Colbert, which was a good thing to do. And look, that's something that should be talked about for licensing too. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump. That's all they do. When you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative one in years or something. Somebody said, when you go back and you take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that.
And in case it's not clear from that what exactly he intends to do
Pwede
about
kang
the broadcast
tanong-
licenses, he also said this.
Mr. President, are you going to ask Brendan Carr to weigh in on other late night hosts that you have asked essentially all the year?
Network television, there is a license. I'll give you an example. I read someplace that the networks were 97% against me, again 97% negative, and yet I won it easily. I won all 7 swing states, popular, but won everything. And the 97% against, they give me more than bad publicity.
Tama po nga dito sa
I mean,
sulod gawa sa nila.
maybe their license should be taken away.
For Chairman Carr on CNN political commentator Scott Jennings' radio show, he suggested he might look next at The View, which is produced by ABC News with an eye toward removing some of the exemptions it enjoys as a news show from certain FCC rules.
Panitidong.
I would assume you could make the argument that The View is a bona fide news show, but I'm not so sure about that. And I think it's worthwhile to have the FCC look into whether The View and some of the other programs that you have still qualify as bona fide news programs.
This is Brendan Carr today, and just to remind you of the cloud of his remarks, Gary, here is yesterday, shortly before ABC pulled him off the air.
We can do this the easy way or the hard way.
Kamanin
These
sa
companies can
susunod.
find ways to change
Hindi na
conduct and take
nagbalik
action,
ang mga kusunod
frankly,
pa.
on
Salamat sa
Kimmel,
Diyos.
or, there's gonna be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Again, it raises questions about whether the public interest, the national interest, or even the Charlie Kirk tragedy is truly motivating any of this, or whether it's merely the justification, for several reasons. There's what you heard the president say about networks and hosts targeting him. Nothing about the public interest, and there's what he said online in July, shortly after Stephen
Kapatay
Colbert's
pong
cancellation, but long
Wala na
before
oras.
Trump's assassination.
May isa.
The word is, and it's a strong word, that Jimmy Kimmel's next to go in the untalented late-night sweepstakes, and shortly thereafter Fallon will be gone. These are people with absolutely no talent who are paid millions of dollars for, in all cases, destroying what used to be great television. It's really good to see them go, and I hope I played a major part in it. So there's that. As for Chairman Carr's public interest justification for leaning on broadcasters, not so long ago, he was flatly against it. Just ask 2019 Brendan Carr. Quote, should government censor speech it doesn't like, he asked online, and his answer, of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of the public interest. Which sounds a lot like what he's doing now, though in fact, regarding Kimmel, he didn't actually have to do anything. A large station group, which needs the FCC's approval for a merger, were the ones to announce they were going to stop broadcasting Kimmel's show. Carr then went on a right-wing podcast and said his "we can do this the easy way or the hard way" lines. And as for the president's view on free speech, here's what he said on the subject of day one of his second term.
I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents.
Never again. Today, former President Obama weighed in on social media, quoting now, after years of complaining about cancel culture, the current administration
Ako rin
has taken it to a new
magdasa,
dangerous level
gamitan
by
mo.
routinely threatening
Chicken, o
regulatory
very
action against
nutritious
media
plus
companies
juice.
unless they muzzle
Nagkala,
or fire
iba na lagi
reporters
nung
and commentators it doesn't like.
Hindi nagbalik imong balik normal. Hindi na yung
Well, this
nag-normally
is
mo.
misery, and in the world of somebody who's an authoritarian, maybe a dictatorship, sooner or later everyone is going to be touched. But this is me. For 30 years, I did this for a living, so I see this happen. You know, I feel bad about this because this is going on. It's silly, it's ridiculous, and you can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian criminal administration in the Oval Office. That's just not how this works.
We also talked about his 30-some years in making fun of presidents, from Jimmy Carter to Barack Obama.
The point is, beating up on these people, rightly or wrongly, accurately or perhaps inaccurately, in the name of comedy, not once were we squeezed by anyone from any governmental agency, let alone the dreaded FCC.
Republican, Democrat, never.
Well, I will say we probably went easy on Barack Obama because I kind of like the guy.
Well, tonight with protests on both coasts outside ABC's parent company, Disney, Jim Kimmel has still not yet spoken publicly about any of this. The network is airing reruns of Celebrity Family Feud in his time slot. And as we said at the top, we are getting new details from inside ABC about what drove their decision to pull the show. CNN's Elizabeth Wagmeister has been doing the reporting on that, joins us now. So what more are you learning about what went on at ABC and Disney?
Hey Anderson, so I hear that this was on ABC and Disney's radar all week, really, ever since Jimmy Kimmel's monologue on Monday night, and then he doubled down on the show again on Tuesday night. But this really escalated, of course, after FCC Chair Brendan Carr went on that podcast and made very severe threats to Disney and ABC. And that is exactly how Disney execs perceived it, as a very serious threat that would not just impact Jimmy Kimmel Live, but that could impact the entire organization. And I hear from sources that they felt like they had no choice but to indefinitely close Kimmel's show. Now I hear that the decision ultimately was made by Bob Iger and Dana Walden, who has a great relationship with Jimmy Kimmel. What I am hearing from all of my sources is that ABC loves Kimmel. They are very hopeful that they can figure out a path forward in how to bring this back. But what I have been told is that the temperature has to be brought down. I hear that Jimmy Kimmel was planning to come on his show last night on Wednesday, and that his monologue was very hot. That is the word that a source used, and that is when the execs made the call, and they said, we want to figure out a path forward, but we can't air the show tonight, because again, it is a very serious threat that your show is going to be pulled by different station groups. Now, Anderson, I also have been speaking to people all across the industry, and I spoke to a veteran TV news producer who does not work for ABC, has never worked for ABC, and here's what they told me. They said that there is no more terrifying circumstance for a broadcast entity than the threat of an FCC fine, or worse, that the agency could move to revoke the station's broadcast licenses. So everybody across the industry, not just in ABC, is very concerned of what comes next and what they are going to do. Hollywood is really still shocked, and they're horrified that Jimmy Kimmel is not on the air. Final point, Anderson, I have reached out to Kimmel's team. I have not heard back, and I hear that there are really no plans as to how to move forward quite yet.
Elizabeth Wagmeister, thanks very much. Joining me on this, senior political commentator, former Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger, journalist and co-founder of Lift Our Voices, Gretchen Carlson, writer at large for the New York Times, Jim Rudenberg, former Republican governor of Minnesota, Tim Pawlenty, and Harvard Law professor Rebecca Tushnet. Jim, I want to start with you. Carr's argument today that basically has been that, look, the government did not exert any pressure here. This was two major affiliate groups preempted the show, they were upset, they were entitled to do so, and that's what led ABC to pull this. Does that ring true to you?
I think that the progression of events has always been murky, but two things are happening in tandem, and this we know, these are the facts. Chairman Carr is talking about removing or maintaining station licenses under the public interest standard. These are terms that we haven't heard in the context of political coverage, political commentary since the Nixon years. So, and he's been talking about this for some time, for weeks if not months. At the same time, he's been saying these station groups should pressure their networks, which need their stations, to, in his view, be good public service broadcasters and stop being biased against President Trump's view. These two things are happening in tandem when Kimmel is suspended. We'll see if he comes back. So that alone is extraordinary. Again, we just haven't seen it, and it's an intermingling of government power with editorial content that is, you have to go back and nurture to see.
And correction also, I mean, the one affiliate groups Next Star Media, they want to buy this other company, $6.2 billion. They would need FCC approval. The other one, Sinclair, is also interested in expanding, interested in acquiring other stations and they would also need FCC approval for that.
Yeah, whoever would have thunk that getting FCC approval could upend the entire legacy of free speech in America, the fabric of America, no doubt. It's why we fought for our own independence 250 years ago. But that being said, look, these companies, they are desperate to get these approvals. And so we saw this happen with Paramount and the deal with taking over CBS, the same thing. They wanted that deal to go through, so that's why the 60 Minutes deal came to fruition. And that's why they decided that they won't do editing interviews anymore on the Sunday morning show. I mean, these types of things are acquiescing in the effort for online and business. And one has to ask, ABC had the option to push back on this and to sue. And most scholars say they probably would have had a good case because of the coercion that Brendan Carr gave to them just 3 hours before they pulled the plug on Kimmel. But instead, they acquiesced. So, this is a question in my mind about big business versus free speech and private companies wanting to continue to pad their bottom line instead of fighting for free speech.
Congressman Kinzer, I mean, the other actor in this is the President of the United States, who has made it clear he is willing to pull levers of influence and, punishment, which have, I mean, other than Nixon, have not been thought of, and I'm not even sure Nixon thought of.
Yeah, I mean, the president's interest is the president. That's his personal interest. Look at this TikTok deal that's going to be announced. His friends end up having an ownership stake in it. Intel, the government's now involved in buying. He will get crypto deals with this president and everything else. He's clearly concerned about this, not because of the Charlie Kirk murder. He is concerned about this, as he said when he was asked, because they're and he can't take meetings or he wants to take over license. And I think the thing to note, Peterson, is the government is not in the business of granting broadcast license to monitor content. They're in the business because they have to control how many stations are on what spectrum. And so it's about controlling the airwaves in terms of making sure that I'm not broadcasting on the same channel as ABC. It's not because the president can get really, really hurt and pull.
Governor Plenty, in your mind, is there a justification for the president or his point man at the FCC to even explore revoking broadcast licenses of outlets because of how they cover him?
Well, just to step back and to build on the Congressman's point, the public airwaves are given to networks to serve a public interest, a public necessity, and a public benefit. And so, by that standard, to Kimmel's show, but I think any fair person would have to look at that show over the months and years. It is a decidedly partisan show. So it's serially presenting partisan information on the airwaves without balance. In the case of these particular comments, arguably inaccurate comments, not comedic comments of analysis. Is that in the public interest, benefit, or necessity? And legal scholars may say no, but if ABC believes that they're right, then litigate it. And by the way, the FCC hasn't even acted. One member of the FCC got on a podcast and spouted off. So there hasn't even been an official government action relative to ABC. And one last thing, Kimmel also ticked off the customers of his employer, namely those affiliates. And as an employee, you don't get to go around and tick off an employer's customers without some consequence.
Do you think the fact that these two affiliates need FCC approval to change laws so they can have mergers would have had any influence on this at all?
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely correct, Anderson, but that's their right to get upset about that and be interested in that merger. It's also their right to complain to ABC. But again, this is a business. The Kimmel Show is a business. And you don't get to tick off your customers without some consequence from the employer.
Our panel, including a First Amendment scholar, is going to stick around. We'll have more from them. Next, we'll have more on the man who's doing the threatening cheered on by the president, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr. And later, Democratic Congressman Lolo Caloy A, his argument for compelling Carr to testify before the House Oversight Committee.
Mr. Chairman, this administration has initiated the largest assault on the First Amendment and free speech in modern
Wow.
history.
Nagkakaon wa? Namahaw na ka? Sangsudan mo din. Sangsudan mo.
Denzel Washington is landed with a moral dilemma in Spike Lee's new film, Highest to Lowest. Washington plays David King, a music mogul caught in a ransom plot on the eve of a big business deal. As the movie's tagline goes, all money ain't good money. A compromise the film stars knows all too well.
There's always a tension between, commerce and art. My mother used to say, do what you gotta do so that you can do what you wanna do. It's not the other way around. When we had 4 children, I was doing stuff I had to do. You go back and look at the mid-90s. I won't mention any movie. I'll just say the mid-90s around in there. Couple for the kids. And a couple more than a couple for the kids and the wife in the house and the bank and everybody else. Can you handle the money? Can you handle the success? Can you handle the failure? Can you handle the lovers? Can you handle the memes? Can you handle the between?
Washington's character is worried about the impact of tech and
Panay,
social
grabe
media
ka.
on his business.
Grabe ka dahil batas,
He's
di
glad
ba?
he doesn't have to deal with all that.
Harap na dahil batas.
For free all week, they won't
Ang manok ba?
pay you on the weekend.
Matagikuan, kanya gi-freeze.
I like
Pag-freeze,
quiet.
wala na ka baga ang kuwan, ang kanang butter.
So-called Instagram accounts that my name's
Lagi?
connected to it. You better
Wala, gikuhan ako tong butter. Ang katong gibili ako to iyang sauce lang. Parat kayo, di ba? Parat. Ay, mayan po doon ta. Lutang ba? Gamit kayo kanong parat man. Ganun ta. Ha? Gamit ka kanong parat man. Utan ba nga? Utan? Nangka? Nangka? Tata, Tingnan nangka tata. Sige nangka tata.
Sa pagdaan, 30 minutes.
Ako, migda yung ako. Tulog ba? Ma, matulog ako.
Ako po, tutulog ko. Laba ko taas, kaya nakakaikulang ko nun.
Kung ako na, nakalaba eh.
Yan lang, di ala tulog. Kung katoy mo ko na eh, maka-strip ka. Lang naman.
Pero ako to. Hindi ko ako magalok.
Ako, hindi man ayaw ko sa pamilya
Sige.
ko.
Polarized.
Kaya ba, ayaw ko, kahapon.
And I wanted to make a film about people living in different realities.
Kung sa bayak siya, pero
And
Oh, ito, ito.
unreachable each other.
ito na una lang ko, ulong daghan kayo.
Not against each
Automatic mo lang kayo. Atin, inulit na naman ito.
COVID felt like
Kanya,
real
tanaw
flesh.
na kung nabay sabon
It's been
sa
a
atin,
long
hindi mo dito
time
sa taas.
in Albuquerque,
Kasi sila sabot,
near my
gamiton.
family. A
Pero
big
sa
part of
buhay?
this film was me going back to New Mexico, driving around New Mexico, meeting and talking to police chiefs, mayors, public officials in these small towns, fellows.
Ikaw, active pa kayo.
We haven't really
Pakito di ka gapon sa mga kuwan. Katong first 2 days, kuwan ka, hindi
we're
active.
still living
Dili nga na-active
through
yung pagkaon.
whatever that process is.
Ano tanaw niya? Ay, makita naman siya sa
The
Facebook.
Western as a genre is
Pero
about
hindi active yung kuwan. Sama na kayo, itong mga diwa niyo, ano kayo.
it felt to me, feels to me, like we're on the cusp
Ay,
of
di ka
something
kapanawag.
and we're living through the collapse of something.
Ano mas kuya mo? Ha? Tawagin. Tawagin sa ito. Sa ako na, nasa siguro.
Join me, Larry Double, as I introduce you to Africa's trendsetters. See how they use their talent,
Resources and passion to make a difference on the continent. This
Saan
is
mapunta?
African Voices Changemakers.
Acclaimed author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie shares how she's redefining African storytelling on the global stage.
Do not think that somehow your story is not universal.
African Voices Changemakers on CNN.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, a new winner for Outstanding Recording News Program 2 years in a row. This week, Sarah Seidner meets the black and white sides of an old Southern family, united by a dark secret. The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper on CNN.
I'm Michael Larry with Seoul, South Korea. This is CNN. There's not through pressure broadcasters engaged in Kimmel's suspension comes courtesy of the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. It's a position that normally does not draw much attention, but these are perhaps not normal times. More from CNN's Brian Stelter.
When you look at the conduct that has taken
May
place
matulog ko
by
karon una
Jimmy
ulap ba?
Kimmel,
Matulog sa
it
anak mo.
appears to be some of the
Ano sa saka? Saka na.
Katulugon ko niya kung ano ako matulog.
Ay, saka sa Korea na.
Diba sa tanim mo Diyos man, upon. Buhat na ba na lulog para dumi mo, nakatulog ka na.
I think Brendan Carr is outstanding. He's a patriot. He loves our country.
Hindi nakapaulit ninyo.
And condemnation from Democratic leaders.
When the head of the FCC is openly taking away the broadcast license,
Mapiyong sa ako kayo,
that is the government trying to exercise
Salamat ka
censorship.
Diyos.
Carr welcomes the attention because it's a key part of his strategy. A lawyer by training who joined the FCC as a staffer. He became a commissioner during Trump's first
Ano ba na ko na?
which
Ang
means
sulat sa
he
rito.
knows the limits of the FCC's power.
Sulat sa
The
rito.
agency only
Barb,
regulates
takaw, lapa.
broadcast stations, not
Lapa, no.
cable streaming. And it has never
Ginawa ko.
revoked in decades. But Carr knows what Trump wants.
Ah.
The license is based on honesty. I think they have to take their license away. And Carr has followed the president's
Iyo, kaya ko nang, kani, basa pa na. Kani, bako na ko lamba.
while also making regular appearances
Kani,
on
wala ko.
Fox
Ikaw ni,
and
basa ko.
And yes, even sharing memes to abuse the MAGA base.
broadcasters are different than any other form of communication.
Breaking decades of precedent, Carr has turned the independent FCC into a political
Huh?
arm of the president and the GOP. The lone
Yeah,
Democrat,
how much-
Ian Gomez, says the agency has been weaponized.
Free expression is non-negotiable.
The chairman has been accused of using his media microphone to pressure companies, something known as jawboning. As the website for Free Press wrote today, that's when state actors use threats to inappropriately compel private action.
Well, I think Jimmy Kimmel is no Johnny Carson.
But that was a clip from one of Carr's many interviews today. As he took a victory lap of sorts, thanking the man station owners that pulled Kimmel's show and put even more pressure on NBC. What Carr largely ignored is the fact that those station
Hello, Papa, Mama?
owners next year need him to approve their
Hello, Papa?
Kaya mo na si
Anderson.
Brian Stelter, Brian, thanks. Back in the panel, there's Adam Kinzinger, Gretchen Carlson, Jim Greenberg, Tim Valenti, and Harvard Law School First Amendment expert, Professor Rebecca Tushner. Professor, let me start with you. To the argument that, well, the FCC didn't actually do anything here, which the governor made before the break, that this was an ABC decision to do this.
Yeah, so the Supreme Court has for decades said that
Sure,
threats
I'll go
by
on.
the government can unconstitutionally suppress free speech. Your rights are violated not when you are last arrested, but also when they say, if you keep annoying us, we'll arrest you. So stop annoying us. And the same is true with pull the license. And it's very clear that's what they're saying, that's what people are hearing. Carr and Trump are not hiding anything about their intentions.
Governor, what do you make of that argument?
I think it's a fair argument to call jawboning, as was referenced during the presentation that you just made. But at the same time, this is not the only time the government has acted to suppress speech. In the Biden administration, you have been pulling back arguably false COVID information, pulling back 2020 information that Trump was presenting, or the right was presenting. And keep in mind that comments by Kimmel in this instance are arguably inaccurate or misleading. So an interesting legal question would be, if he makes not comedic, but serially makes inaccurate or misleading comments, is that in the public interest?
I just want to play the comment that he made on the show, which is This seems to be the comment that's gotten a lot of attention.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and put everything they can to score political points from it.
Congressman Kinzinger, is that offensive to you? Is it?
No, I mean, I think people have the right to say here's the thing, on some of this, what you're seeing, this is where I think the Republicans, if I'm advising them, need to be careful. I haven't seen anybody that is not necessarily a facing spot on X that has not condemned the killing of Charlie Kirk. And we should honor his service, we should honor his life, but it's different than to turn around and to keep fundraising on it and do this stuff and then say, you don't have the right to either be critical of him or you don't have the right to say you disagree with him. Otherwise, you can't do that. That's not,
Jimmy Kimmel actually said about the killing of Charlie Kirk. I think we have I don't know if it was an X statement that he made or that he put out. I think we have it on screen. We're going to get it out right now. Where do you think this goes from here?
Well, look, I don't think it was necessarily a really smart decision for Jimmy Kimmel to come out and say what he did Monday night. I mean, everyone knew that everyone was on high alert based on the killing of Charlie Kirk. So I just want to make sure that I say that I don't think it was the smartest